No, I didn't obtain another fan. I actually had this fan. I bought this fan in 1997. I bought it for my father as a Father's Day gift. And about a year after I bought it, I decided I loved it more than he did. And even though that isn't necessarily true. So I think I sort of commandeered it from him. And I restored it. Previously, the fan had the original paint, the original cord, and it was scratched to hell. I decided, I was young and dumb, I was going to restore the fan. I replaced the cord because the original cord caught fire. I used to use this by my bed, and it actually tripped the surge protector it was plugged into. This cord came from a 1960s iron. And this is the very first antique fan I ever owned, and the very first restoration I ever undertook myself, or had any involvement in. I did the whole thing myself. The fan was manufactured in 1930, between 1930 and 1932, I'd say. It is in fairly good condition. It does have a few minor flaws. The copper gearing, brass gearing actually, in the gearbox is completely stripped out, so it doesn't oscillate anymore, but it has a two-position oscillator. Now in this fan, you have to unscrew the oscillator arm and put it into a different position on the oscillator cam. When you screw it into the center location, it locks it into a stationary mode. The fan is in fairly good condition, as I said before. This is the original felt, and this is the original label. It was manufactured in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I used this fan from 1998 to about 2004. No, 2005, because I used to use this at work. I'll get into that in a bit. This fan has been with me for so long, and it still works. Now, I used to use this fan on a daily basis in my bedroom, and I eventually took it to work where I had it on my desk for about 4 months before OSHA came in and told me to get rid of it. Now, what happened is, when I moved out on my own, I realized that I was kind of mean of me to take it back from my father, so I gave it to him again. This is why I'm filming it in my parents' house. I'm not going to take it with me. It's been sitting on that shelf for about a year or so. So anyway, it's my father's fan, not mine anymore. And this thing hasn't been turned on in quite some time. So let's fire it up. You can see it's starting. It's still in very good shape. The bearings are excellent. I used to oil this fan once every 2 months or so. I used to use 3-in-1 oil in the blue can. Don't ever use the red stuff. But it starts up fine. It runs great. Even though it doesn't oscillate anymore, it's still a nice little desk fan. This is an 8-inch model. And the lighting and the image quality of this camera don't do it any justice. The paint finish, it's about 3 coats of epoxy green, hunter green epoxy paint, and the paint is in excellent condition. You can't really tell with this camera though. I mean, you'd have to see it in person. It's still very dusty from sitting on the shelf for so long. One interesting thing to note about this house, it was built in 1860 and is most definitely haunted. My mother and I have both heard a child's voice several times on about 3 or 4 occasions. We'd hear someone come in this door, and while we're upstairs or in the living room, and we hear someone giggling. Keep in mind there are no children that young in our family. Another thing that's happened Right where I'm aiming this camera, my mom actually, on Thanksgiving of last 2-3 years ago, my mom saw a man dressed in military fatigue standing right where I'm pointing this camera. She turned back and he was gone. So, that's just a side story. This house is it's a nice old New Englander style home. Unfortunately, they just bought a dog and he chewed the hell out of this wall, and we need to fix that. But speaking of, where is the little basket? There he is. Hey, Zach. This puppy is 6 months old. And he does tricks, too. Watch this. Bang, bang. 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 He plays dead. Give me your paw. Get up. You're alive now. Give me your paw. Give me your paw. No, not your tongue. Give me your paw. Normally does a very good job of that. Stop licking me. Give me your paw. There we go. I gotta give him a treat. Give him one of these things. Here you go. Good dog. He's a good dog. I swear he's a good dog. Oh. I'm not sure if this car looks familiar. This is an identical replica of the Bumblebee from the movie Transformers. Down to every last detail. All the rust, all the black markings and rubber tire marks that are on the other side of the hood, everything was done with an airbrush. There is no rust anywhere on this car. It is solid. Basically a fully restored 1977 Camaro. That was actually built by the owner of Turtle Transportation, James Riseborough, for the World of Wheels. This was the WAAF car that some of you may have seen. It had the WAAF logo in the windshield and in the back window. But everything you see here is all paint. This rust, that's painted on, that's airbrushed. All the dirt was all done with spray cans. This was a fresh coat of yellow paint when they started. The interior was redone to match the Bumblebee from the movie. Yellow and black vinyl. The dashboard. The center logo and the steering wheel. The air freshener is the same one that was used in the movie. These rims are brand new, but yet they look so old. They actually airbrushed dirt into the rims. This is all fake. This primer is actually airbrushed on. You can see the dirt in the car. This is all airbrushed. My father, I believe he bought this. He bought it from the guy who built it, and I don't know what he paid for it, but it's a very unique car. It runs like a top. The engine was not rebuilt, but it was completely redone with new seals. But we were at a car show recently, and some guy flagged us down and said, "Hey, I've got a quarter panel for one of those, and it's brand new, OEM quarter panel." I'm like, "Oh no, we really don't need it, but thank you." And he looked at us like we had three heads. "What do you mean? You've got all this rust on your quarter panel." Take a good look, dude. There ain't no rust on this car. All solid metal. Car originally came from South Carolina. Solid. But that's that. Well, hope you've enjoyed.